Hello everyone. Today in this video, we will discuss a brutal chess trap, the scholar mate. If you are one of the victim of this trap, then you are in right place. After watch this video, you will know how to brutally punish this opening and ensure your advantage. Let's get started. The scholar mate starts with e4, e5. Now white play a very aggressive move, queen to h5. Now your pawn on e5 is hanging, but the main idea of this line, white wants to develop his light square bishop on c4 and set up a checkmating trap on f7. This is called scholar mate. Here a lot of players just forget about their hanging pawn on e5 and just push their pawn on g6, but this is a horrible blunder because white can capture this pawn on e5 with a check. This is not only a check, it's also connect this rook on h8. So after you block the check, white can capture this rook. Now you are just down a whole rook. So this is completely winning for white. So after queen to h5, you can push your pawn on g6. Here a lot of players consider knight to f6 move. It's attacking this queen and also attack this pawn on e4. This should be a good move unless you hang your pawn on e5. Now white just can capture this pawn. Now you are just down a pawn for nothing. So after queen to h5, both pawn to g6 and knight to f6 is out of option. You have to protect your e5 pawn. The best move in this position is actually knight to c6. It's protect our pawn on e5. Now white play according to his plan. He does develop his bishop on c4 and threatening us checkmate on f7. Now you have to protect your f7 square. You can protect it many way. You can play queen to e7, it's protect your f7 square, but it's block your bishop diagonal. If you consider queen to f6, it's also restricted your knight movement. Another option, you can play knight to h6, it's also protect your f7 square, but after this move, white can push his pawn. Now this is under attack. Next move, he wants to capture this knight and mess up your pawn structure. So these three moves is not good for you. You have to play something which is good for you, not for white. The best move in this position is actually push your pawn on g6. Now this queen is under attack and she can't capture your pawn on e5 because this is well protected by our knight. Here queen can go f3 and again set up a checkmating trap on f7. Now there is highly chance of make some blunder. Here a lot of players go for a fancy line which is knight to d4. It's attack this queen and also attack this c2 square. It's also come with a royal fork. So this should be good for you. But you just hang checkmate in one. Don't make this kind of mistake. You have to protect this diagonal or protect your f7 square. The best move in this position, knight to f6. Now this knight is protected by our queen. Now knight to d4 is a threat. White can stop this idea by push his pawn on c3 and also place his knight to e2. But here a lot of white players again go for a trap. They just push their pawn on g4. They want to push their pawn one more square. Now what if we play bishop to g7? Then they will push their pawn on g5. Now this knight is under attack and after we move our knight, they just can capture this pawn on f7 and this is a checkmate. But after pawn to g4, just go for this knight to d4 move. Now this queen is under attack, so there is no time to push their pawn on g5. And also this pawn on c2 is under attack. It's also come with a massive fork. So white queen have to save herself and also protect this pawn and this pawn. The only way to protect both of them is queen to d1. Now you have to play pawn to d5. You just open up this light square bishop diagonal. After white capture this, just go for this pawn on g4. Now this queen is under attack. White can save his queen by playing knight to e2, bishop to e2, and he also consider his pawn push on f3. First, we will see what if white play knight to e2. Then you just have to play knight to f3 check. Only legal square for this king. King to f1. Then you have to play bishop to h3 check and this is a mate. Look at this, there is no square for this king. So after bishop capture g4, white can block this idea by playing knight to e2. What if he play bishop to e2, then just go for this bishop. After white capture your bishop, then go for this pawn on d5. Now this rook is under attack. If white try to save this rook on g1, then you have to play knight to f3 check. Now this is a fork, and if white consider rook to f1, then go for this knight to f3 check, and this is a mate. So after bishop capture g4, knight to e2 and bishop to e2 is out of option. Third option is he can push his pawn on f3. Now your bishop is under attack, but you have to play knight to e4 and hang your knight also. Now white can capture this bishop and he also captured this knight. If he goes for this knight, then you can capture this queen. So this is easy win for you. And if you consider capture this bishop, then you have to play queen to h4 check. Now only available square for this king is king to f1. Then you have to play queen to f2 check, and this is a mate. So after knight to f6, white can push his pawn on g4. He can also try queen to b3. He wants to capture this pawn on f7 with a check, but don't be panicked, this is not a checkmate. After this move, you just have to play knight to d4. Now this queen is under attack. If white goes for this pawn on f7, you just have to move your king. Now this queen is under attack and this bishop also under attack. Now white queen have to save herself and also protect this bishop. So she have to stay this diagonal. Only available square in this diagonal is c4, because this square is taken by this knight, this square is taken by this pawn, and also this knight. So white play queen to c4, then you have to push your pawn on b5, make an attack to this queen, and this pawn also well protected by our knight. Now white queen cannot stay this diagonal. Now she can try c5 check, then you just go for this bishop on f7. Now this queen is under attack. If queen try to capture this pawn, then go for this pawn on c2 with a massive fork and win this rook. So white queen cannot touch your pawn on e5. Now if you count material, we are just a piece up, so this is completely winning for us. So after knight to f6, white can push his pawn on g4 and queen to b3. Now we will discuss the best move in this position, which is pawn to c3 and knight to e2. Both of these moves stop our knight jump on d4. First we will discuss what if white play knight to e2, then we have to play bishop to g7. Now white also can push his pawn on d3. Now we have to go for this castle and white play bishop to g5, pinning our knight. In future, white wants to develop his knight here to here and try to win our knight on f6. Here you just have to push your pawn on a6. White bishop goes to h4 and you have to push your another pawn on g5. Now only available square for this bishop is bishop to g3. Now you have to just push your pawn on d5. You play this d5 move just because of open up this bishop diagonal. When white captured your pawn, just go for this bishop to g4 move. Now this queen is under attack and only available square for this queen is queen to e3. Now you have to play knight to d4 move. Look at this move. This is attacking this knight and also attack this c2 square. If you can capture this pawn, then it comes with a massive fork. It comes with a family fork. So white can afford his pawn loose on c2. So he have to capture this knight. After capture, you can capture this with your pawn, and after white recapture, just go for this rook e8 check. Now there is only two moves for this king, either king to d2 or king to f1. If king goes to d2, then you have to play knight to e4 check with a discover attack to this queen. So you can win this queen and this is a easy win for you. And if king consider f1 move, then you have to play bishop to e2 check. Now again there is two options for this king to g1 or king to e1. If king goes to e1, then you can capture this pawn and there will be more discovery. So after king to g1, you have to play knight to d7 move. Now this is just a brilliant move because this queen is under attack and there is no move for this queen. This line is taken by this rook, this 2 square is taken by this knight, this 2 square is taken by this pawn, and this square is taken by this bishop. So white queen is trapped. So white have to sacrifice his queen for a bishop. So this is again completely easy win for you. So after knight to f6, you can play knight to e2. Again, if you consider pawn to c3, then again you have to play according to your previous line. Just develop your bishop. White also push their pawn, goes for castle, and white play bishop to g5, make an attack to this bishop. Bishop goes to h4, and again attacking this bishop, and only available square for this bishop is bishop to g3. g3, again just push your pawn on d5, and after white recapture, you can't capture this pawn because this is protected by 2 times, but you can play bishop to g4, attacking this queen, so queen have to save herself, and only available square is e3. Now you can capture this pawn. After white recapture, you can also capture by your queen. Now the g2 pawn is under attack. White can save his g2 pawn in 2 ways. First, see what if white play knight to f3. Now you have to push your pawn on f5. You want to push your pawn one more square and make an attack to this queen and this bishop. Here white can also push their pawn, but you have to push your pawn on f4. Now this queen is under attack, so there is no time to capture your bishop. After white save his queen, then goes for this knight, and again this queen is under attack. So after queen capture bishop, then go for this queen, and after pawn capture queen, goes for this bishop. Now if you count material, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and white have 1, 2, 3 pieces. So this is completely winning for us. Here after queen capture d5, if white pushes pawn on f3, again you can push your pawn on f5, and if white goes for this bishop, then you can capture this pawn on g2. Now this rook is under attack. Obviously white can play queen to f3. Now this is protected, and this queen also protected by this knight, so everything is protected. But who will protect this pawn on b2? And there is no way to save this rook on a1. Now you are just not a exchange up. Your position is too good. So this should be easy win for you. Hope now you can punish your opponent when they try this scholar mate to you. Don't be afraid. Just be set up your mind to play aggressively and win the game.